Welcome to the Pastured Pig Podcast, where we share the successes and challenges of raising pigs on pasture. We talk to producers all over the country, from small homesteads to large commercial pasture operations. Whether you're new to pastured pigs or have been raising hogs for decades, we hope you hear new ideas and new perspectives on pasturing hogs. Here's your host, Troy McClung.
Well, welcome everyone once again to another episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. Again, we just really enjoy talking to people and being able to share their stories from across the country. A little update before we get started. I believe when we last talked about what's going on here with our pigs, we had just bred two of our sows and anxious to see if they had settled. Well, it looks like I definitely have one that's settled. The second one, she had just a little bit of swelling, but she's not standing, no discharge, so we may be okay. I've got it marked on the calendar, and we'll check again here in 21 days or 25 days here. Let this cycle try to come back around and see. But I think we're successful with at least one, so that puts us a farrowing date the end of November, which will be interesting. I usually don't farrow this time of year. I usually farrow in the spring, but since we had such a lousy farrowing this spring, we figured let's try something again, not wait a whole year again. So hopefully we'll keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully things will turn out well there. I'll obviously keep everyone posted as we go along. Well, on today's interview, we're talking with Grace Ruiz from A Couple Acre Farm in Oregon, and she has American Guinea Hogs. And it's funny, I record these podcasts a while back. I kind of record them in batches and then release them weekly, as you all have seen. And I interviewed Grace probably 2 months ago. And I just got an inquiry on through the website. One of the listeners had reached out and said, hey, we'd like to hear somebody that's doing American Guinea Hog. Well, here you go. It just so happens that I got this request in the email just last week, I believe, and just so happened that Grace's interview happened to be next on the schedule. So I'd like to say that was planned, but I can't take credit for that. So I won't give any more details on what Grace has got going on. I'll let her tell her story on her own. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pastured Pig Podcast. We really appreciate everyone that takes the time to download our podcast and listen. Again, just excited to have discussions with people across the country about their efforts and experiences in raising pastured hogs. Tonight I have with me Grace Ruiz from Oregon, I believe. A Couple Acre Farm is the name of her farm. So, Grace, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, hi, Troy. Thanks for having me on tonight.
All right. Well, welcome. I'm glad you took the time to get on the phone with us here and have a conversation. So you are in Oregon State, correct?
Yes.
Whereabouts in Oregon?
We are actually in Oregon City, so easy to remember.
All right.
End of the Oregon Trail.
Okay. So that would be closer to the West Coast then?
Yes.
Very good.
Yep, pretty close to the West Coast. Only about an hour and a half from the coast there.
Okay. So what's the landscape like around there?
Lots of trees, and everything's green for a lot of the year. To the majority of the year. So lots of evergreens and pine. It's great for growing pasture. That's pretty awesome.
Okay. Are you decent elevation?
I think we're kind of in the middle because we're kind of an hour and a half down to the coast and an hour and a half up to the mountain, up to Mount Hood. Oh,
okay. So that would put you in the 2,000 to 4,000 foot range, probably.
I think so. Yeah, sounds right.
Okay. So does that being that close to the coast, do you have decent winters or do you have a mild winter?
It really depends. Our first winter on our farm, we didn't have any animals yet, but it was around 18 degrees for a few months, which is really rare. But I would say we don't really go much under freezing.
Oh, okay. That makes it nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so the name of your farm is A Couple Acre Farm. So the obvious question is, how big is your farm?
So we are 2.3 acres. So we are definitely only a couple acres here.
Oh, okay, very good. All right. And I assume you all you have a dwelling there on that 2.3 acres as well.
Yes, we do. We're actually on a really interesting space. I kind of say that we're the farm in the suburbs because we're on a farm. It's zoned as a farm. But across the street, we have a lot of estates that have been built that used to be a cattle ranch.
Oh.
Yeah, so we live in a traditional neighborhood. People walk their dogs and our kids can ride their bike, and we're close to our neighbors. But we have lots of farm animals here.
Okay, so you said estates. Is that what we out east would call housing development? So you're talking small tracts of land with houses kind of built close to one another?
Yes, these are technically estates, I think, because they're on half an acre or bigger, and they're very large houses.
Ah, okay. Yes. Yeah, okay. Well, that's okay. Wow, there's some stuff to unpack there, isn't there? So has pig farming rubbed against the urban sprawl that's come your direction? Have you had any issues with that yet?
It's funny, actually. The neighbors that we know and have talked to, we haven't met everybody, but we've been here for almost 3 years, so we've met quite a few, and they actually love that we farm here. They think it's great. They think the pigs are super cute. Our boar is out the most, kind of, because he's out with the cows a lot. And so, yeah, no, they actually really enjoy it. They always tell us that they're glad that we kept it a farm and didn't subdivide. And so it's kind of interesting that they seem to enjoy kind of having both sides of life here.
Do you have any issues with neighbors' pets? You know, you mentioned dogs. Are there any issues with dogs getting in and messing with your livestock?
We've had a couple of loose dogs actually come on our property, dogs as well. And so that kind of seems to deter it, but not really kind of walk around our yard. We haven't had them go after any of our animals or had any issues with those.
Okay. Yeah, I'm losing you a little bit there with your connection. But, okay, so give us a description, a little bit of your farm, your layout. I assume relatively flat in your area, and what kind of infrastructure do you have as far as buildings? And it sounds like you have some other livestock as well.
Yes, we do. So we're actually very flat, and it's mostly pasture, but we have a good-sized yard, good-sized garden. We have the hogs, and then we also have 2 cows and chickens. And then not at this moment, but throughout the year, we also raise pasture-raised chickens as well, the Cornish crosses. Yeah,
okay. So you don't have those on farm right now. Do you normally do those earlier in the spring or later in the fall?
So we already did some, but then we like to take a break in the middle and then do more. And so, because we're not really big yet, and so we do that. And then we also do have a small barn and hay storage as well. So we have a 2-stall barn and hay storage on our property here as well.
All right. Sounds like a good setup then. Okay, well, yeah. Let's talk about your pigs as far as the breed and you know, how many sows you have. And you mentioned a boar already, so we know you're breeding with boar. So let's talk about that. What's the breed that we're raising here?
So we have American Guinea Hogs, and we kind of chose them just basically by we bought the farm, and we all of a sudden the next spring, we bought it in November, and the next spring there was all this grass, and we were like, oh, we just had a baby a couple weeks ago, so we should find some animals to eat this grass. And so I just researched animals for a small farm that eat grass, and American Guinea Hogs were one that came up. And there's a farm really close to us, about 30 minutes away in Sandy, Oregon, that has been a big part of bringing the American Guinea Hogs back because the breed got really low. I think they got down to 100 in America or something. And so we're like, well, they're close by, so we should go pick up, 2 guys. And so we got a male and a female and brought them home to eat the grass.
That's right. And a lawnmower that produces bacon, you can't go wrong there, right?
Yeah. So we figured, we also learned quickly that 2 baby piglets do not eat a lot of grass on sofas. So that was a good lesson.
Exactly.
So good. Yeah, we bought a steer after that.
That's right. Yeah. It's like we're losing the pigs in the tall grass. This isn't working.
Yeah, no, we couldn't even see him out there. We're like, where did they go? But it was really fun. I mean, yeah, so we went and picked him up when our baby was 3 weeks old and went and got him. And they registered, so we registered ours. Because we knew that for me, a big part of farming is I love the meat, and I love, I'm okay with that part of it. But I love seeing the whole life cycle.
Right, yeah.
And so I don't want to just do feeders because then we wouldn't experience that. And so that's, so we picked for breeding, and we kind of talked to them about, what different lines they had, because they kind of had a couple of different lines there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got a boar and a sow. She wasn't a sow yet, a gilt at the time. And so we got them, and we just kind of put them together, and we were like, well, that's when they're old enough, we'll have piglets. And so that's what happened. And we never even actually, because they're American Guinea Hogs and they're smaller, we never really thought about doing AI.
Yeah.
Because everything that we read said that they're really good breeds to just have a boar, and they're really easy keepers. And so we were like, oh, okay, well, that's what we'll do.
Yeah, I understand the temperament of the American Guinea is pretty laid back. So, and of course, their size, you're not dealing with a 600-pound animal with tusks that could become an issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, it sounds like you've said a couple points there that give us some clues. Sounds like you've got some help on the farm, so I assume you're not going it alone.
No, I mean I do most of it, and then my husband does some. He does mostly projects, but I do all the animal care. And then our 9-year-old takes care of the chickens.
All right, and you have 2 younger daughters as well.
Yes, so we have a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old.
So the 2-year-old and the 5-month-old, not necessarily the best farm hands right now, but I bet you get some great pictures, some cute pictures of those kids out with the farm animals.
Yes, we do, yes, and they get packed around a lot.
Right. That's right. Yeah, see the farm on the back of Mom's shoulders. Yep.
Yep, they spend a lot of time back there.
Well, okay, so how many farrowings have you had with your boar and your sow so far?
So we've had 2 now.
Okay, good
and
litters.
So last year, well, I mean, they weren't huge. So the lines that we picked, there's kind of ones that are a little bit more petite, but they have short noses, and so they tend to root a lot less. And then there's some that have longer noses. So our boar has the longer nose, and our sow has the shorter nose, which also makes her a little on the smaller side.
Mm-hmm.
And so they generally only have between 5 and 8 piglets when they farrow. So we've raised 5. And so right now we have 5 piglets that are 12 weeks old. And then this last February, we butchered our first round of piglets that we raised from birth, until butchering time. So we raised them for 1 year, basically exactly.
Okay. So you're finishing in about 12 months then?
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
we finished in about 12 months.
Okay. So what was your finish weight there at finishing? What were you trying to achieve, either standing or hanging?
Well, I don't know if we achieved what we want the first time. We were kind of just winging it. And we had an idea of how we wanted to feed. And so we wanted to be really picky about how we fed. We wanted to stay away from any even, scraps or food bank foods that was GMO and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
We're really we're not organic, but we're strictly non-GMO, we're soy-free corn food.
Okay.
And so so we had kind of a little bit of a range, but our finishing weights were between about 70 to 90 pounds hanging weight.
Okay. So, trying to do the math in my head. So that's what, 130, 140 pounds?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just reaching for my calculator. All right, we'll just wing it. The guinea hog, of course, it doesn't finish large to begin with. That doesn't sound too bad.
Right.
How was the? I know you kept some of those back for your own consumption. How was your fat cap, and how was your marbling ratio and all that, as far as your appreciation for it?
Yeah. Oh, it was amazing. I mean, it's great. We did hams and we did summer sausage, and then we did pork chops and everything. We kind of wanted to try, pretty much everything that we could try that our butcher offered. We wanted to see, so we kept 2 back for our family, and then we did sell 3.
Yeah.
Whole hogs. We just sold them whole to people that we knew.
Okay.
And so so I think it was a good finishing weight. It was nice because I know that one of the issues with the American Guinea Hog is that they can tend to get overweight really easily.
Mm-hmm.
And so we didn't have that. We didn't have that issue because of how we were feeding.
Right. Yeah, ran them a
and
little.
So that
leaner.
was nice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which was it was intentional, but like I said, it was just trying it out. But we did learn very quickly that is a very, very expensive way to feed them.
Yes.
So we are not repeating that. We actually have a completely different feeding program this year with these new piglets that they're on.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that. I assume that's what you have in your notes here about the milk and the brewer's grain?
Yeah. So we haven't added the brewer's grain yet because they're still, they're not weaned yet. They're still at their moms.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're getting buttermilk from a raw milk farm, someone that we know, and where we get milk from as well. They skim the cream, and so they have this basically non-fat or low-fat buttermilk that we go pick up every week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we pick up anywhere between 45 and 60 gallons a week.
Weekly. Wow, that's a nice haul.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. So it's amazing. And so since this opportunity came up, we were like, okay, we'll try it. So our goal is to try. We were going to do brewer's grain. I don't know, and we still might. We have mixed feelings, but our main goal that we want to do, that we're trying to get to, is to actually grow fodder and do the buttermilk with that.
All right. Yeah.
So then they can they'll stay grain free if we can do that.
Yeah. Okay. So backing up a little bit there, how does one transport 40 to 60 gallons of low-fat buttermilk weekly?
Well, thankfully, we did a semi truck a year and a half ago. And so they actually have these giant 15-gallon, I don't know what they're called, jugs, kind of. But that's where they have screw caps that go on really well. And so the farmer, he loads them for me. And then I drive the truck home, and my husband gets home from work, because he works 40 hours a week. And when he gets home, he unloads them into our quad trailer and then drives them out to the barn for me.
Okay. I lost you a little bit there with the connection there. So if I'm understanding correctly, so you've got a pickup truck. The farmer has the 15-gallon the pails or the totes or whatever. So he's loading them in the truck for you. You're simply the transporter there, which works well. You drive back to the farm. Husband gets home from work and unloads and takes them to the pigs. So do you store all of that throughout the week, or do you just feed it out all at once? How are you taking care of storage on that?
Yeah, so we just leave them in the shade. They're already buttermilk, so they're already sour, essentially.
Yeah.
And so we leave them in the shade, and then I just tip them into buckets every day. And we don't do free feed, so I've always hand fed them. I've always taken it in there and fed them, and there feels like there's less waste, and then we can really control to make sure they're all getting enough food, and kind of it makes us continuously check on our pigs as well.
Well, and that would really help, as you mentioned earlier, with the guinea hog putting on fat too quickly. If you had an unlimited ration, then you're not going to be able to control that nearly as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, neat. So obviously when the brewer's grain kicks in, when that happens, I assume you have a local brewery that's just looking at getting rid of some byproduct there, and you guys are going to be able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, so actually, where we get the raw milk from I think they're Freeman Dairy, they actually go to Portland and pick up from one of the brewers there. And so we'll get that for essentially just his, a little bit of, because he has to do labor to go pick it up in Portland and go back. And so I'll just be able to pick it up the same time that I go get the milk, and he'll just load it in with the tractor as well.
Oh, that's terribly convenient then. Very good.
Yeah. So we're excited.
All right.
So our long-term goal with that, though, is that I actually got a cow specifically, a milking shorthorn, specifically so that we can be more self-sufficient. And then once we AI her and she calves, then we'll be able to provide our own milk for our pigs.
Yeah. Okay. So the pigs are going to get first access to the milk, or will the 3 children get access to the milk first?
Well, we might let the kids have some first.
I was going to say, because my 2 boys drink so many gallons of milk a week, I don't know that one cow could keep up with them.
Well, we'll see how that goes.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. Well, that's great. I love the idea of being completely sufficient on that and really being able to control your feed costs. Now, obviously, as scalability model comes into play, it really depends on how much you want to grow. So that would kind of be my next question. Yeah. Do you see this as you said you had sold 3 to some customers there as whole hogs?
Yeah.
Which works out great in that situation. I assume that helped offset, if not even go into the black as far as profitability goes, and covering the cost of your expenses on the front end. Do you see that as something you want to continue doing at that scale? Do you want to ramp it up more?
I don't know. It's hard to tell. So since we bought our farm, we've had 2 babies, and then they said, my husband works 40 hours a week, and so I'm kind of doing the animal care during the day, and he more does the projects, or when a fence goes down, he comes home to fix it. But it's hard to. We're kind of just trying to see kind of what we want to specialize in. We really like being able to offer things that not everybody does. We're really specific about what we feed our animals. It's the same with the pasture-raised chickens. We do the same, non-GMO, soy-free, corn-free feed. And so it's hard to know how big we want to get because it feels like it might be hard to keep the same quality going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I can see over the years, I think that maybe, I don't know if we have 1 gilt in this batch of piglets. And then we took the other 4 to get castrated, so they're borrows now.
Oh, you don't castrate yourself? Okay.
Not yet. I have not gotten brave enough to do that. I'm actually a little bit clueless, and we have a great farm vet that I actually take them to because it's more expensive to do a phone call, and since they're so small, I can just put them in a dog kennel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to drop them in your purse if you needed to.
I know. Yeah, when they're little, I could just carry them around. And so I think so I think that we would like to grow, but I think that we also want to make sure that we have a good feeding system in place that is sustainable before we kind of just jump in, and all of a sudden, I guess we just hear a lot of stories of all of a sudden they have 40 pigs and they don't have customers, and we kind of just want to make sure that we're able to kind of keep up with that.
Yeah, and that's a good point. That's, I hear that way too much than you should. People, and again, it comes back to breed as well. You get some of these high production breeds that they think, I've got a couple gilts here, or I've got a sow that's pregnant and another sow. I'm going to breed this, and the next thing you know, you've had 3 pigs that throw good litters of 10 plus, and you've 30, 40 pigs
mm-hmm.
immediately. You're like, oh wow, I've got a lot of pork on the farm right now. So, and that's I think too. I liked what you said there about customers that know and like what you produce, and you want to have something unique, and I think that's where when you look at these smaller breeds and you can niche down. And really have a niche
mm-hmm.
market, it makes it still cost effective. You don't lose out on being small scale because you have such a specialty product, and you have usually in those situations you have pretty loyal customers too that are always going to come back.
Yeah, and we really do. I mean, we have amazing customers that buy our pork, that buy our chickens. That my 9-year-old has an egg selling business, so she does that.
Yeah.
So it's been great.
Well, excellent. So, so your overall opinion on the American Guinea, you're into it a couple years now. Do you think that is the breed long term? Do you look at maybe adding different breeds? Going to try some other heritage breeds, or are you going to just stick with the Guinea?
I actually think we're just going to stick with the Guinea hogs. I really like them. I think that they're super cute. Obviously, it's terrifying when they're born because they're so small. They're like, the size of a kitten when they're born.
Right.
Feels like. But yeah, we really like them. And the more actually, it's funny because we kind of went into it not really knowing a lot, other than the fact that we read that they grazed instead of rooting. And so we thought that sounded good. But the more we've learned about them, the more we love them. And also, we've now started cooking with lard, which is great. I love making tortillas with lard. They're pretty much the best thing I've ever eaten. And then also, I started making soap with lard as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so, so I think that we're probably going to keep, I don't know, I like the idea of having, just one breed instead of mixing. I know people have different opinions about that. But I think it's just kind of fun to have a registered line that we can keep and just see how it goes. And we obviously haven't had to trade out anyone yet. Our sow and our boar are still only a couple of years old. So that will be, that will be hard. They have names, Wilbur and Fern.
Right, yeah.
And so, we don't name the piglets because we know that we're not keeping any of them.
Right.
But
yeah.
You can't tell them apart.
Yeah. Well, excellent. So, and I guess obviously with a registered pair there, then if you needed to, you'd I assume have a potential market for selling wean pigs if people so desired. Yeah,
we could. Yeah, I think if someone expressed interest in, in being able to do that, then we'd be able to offer that. So far, right now, we've just pretty quickly castrated because we wanted to keep them for meat, and they haven't been very large litters.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, so far, that's the direction that we've gone.
Yeah, that makes sense. So so do they have access to the pasture with the cows, with the cow and with other livestock? Do you just let them all kind of hang out together, or do you have them in their own paddocks?
So we've learned with the pigs that we rotate them a lot, and we don't tend to keep them with the cows because we're worried about them stepping on the piglets. Might not happen, but we have a Dexter cow and then our American Shorthorn.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so or milking Shorthorn. Anyway, and so we do portable netting. We do hog netting. And so it works well because then we just move them around and we can move them to new pasture. And in the winter, we have kind of a drier area that we can put them in. Our farm is actually already sectioned into 5 different pastures. And so that keeps it pretty easy to be able to keep the hogs in one. The boar, a lot of times, he'll be with the cows because we don't just leave him because we only want to do 1 litter a year right now. And so we don't just keep him with the sow. They're only together for part of the year.
So how do you manage that? So obviously Fern comes into cycle at every, I assume American Guinea's like everyone else, every 21 days or so.
Yeah.
So is Wilbur the most frustrated pig on the farm for the majority of the year, or does he keep a good distance? Do you have any issues of him breaking fence or getting through?
No, he doesn't even try to break the fence. It's amazing actually. Like he's actually really lazy. And so, he kind of just hangs out and he likes his belly rub sometimes. We use the same for him. It's just a 20-inch hog netting from Premier One. And we have electric fences all along the property. And so we just hook it onto one of our electric fences and we move him as well.
Yeah.
He doesn't get rotated as much because he's not growing.
Yeah.
And so he's a pretty easy keeper. He doesn't. Fine. He doesn't really seem to get frustrated. He got annoyed one time when she was in heat and she broke out because we didn't have the fencing up. She was in a different field and we didn't know she could go under the gate. So she took a trip, but they were still separated. by the fencing. But yeah, they seem, I don't know if all American Guinea Hogs are like that, but they usually go near the fence because they know that they'll get shocked. And so they just stay back. They give it a good, 1 or 2 feet away from it.
Yeah, I've discovered with my herds over the years that a good hot fence. I mean, pigs are smart; they can remember that, and I can even walk through the pasture with just a piece of fence wire in my hand, and they'll back up away from me. They definitely understand what that is. So yeah, as long as it stays hot, then you've got a sequestered pig there.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, let's talk going down here. So you ended up this year selling 3 as wholes. So how did you find your buyers? Was that just word of mouth since you're dealing with just a handful, or did you do any advertising there?
So we actually haven't done any advertising. We happen to be in a community where a lot of people we know, they're very thoughtful about how they eat and what they eat. And so immediately we told our friends some our hogs, and when we told them we were selling some chickens, they started reserving right then. And so it was, I didn't advertise at all. I just mentioned that we were going to sell some after our chickens were born, and they were like, we want to be on the list. So we took deposits and had also 3 sold in, I think a couple weeks.
Excellent. Yeah, I think in that situation, it sounds like with where your farm is and located to that development, you could just grill some pork chops out one night and just put a sign out, and the aroma would just draw everybody in.
Yeah, we have had our neighbors start asking. I think that because we haven't advertised, some people don't realize that we actually sell certain things here. Mm-hmm. Even the chickens, they'll see us because we butcher the chickens on site here, the pasture-raised chickens. And so they'll see us, and then so they start asking, do you sell some, or is it just for your family? So we'll say, oh no, we sell them, and so we've always sold as many as we wanted to sell without any advertising. So just saying, we have chickens for sale again.
Yeah, and there's some beauty in deliberately staying small like that and saying, well, let's just do what the market will bear in our area. Because it can really reduce a lot of stress and really keep things at the scale that you want. The extra income's great, and take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to processing, several people I've talked to on the West Coast seem to have the ability. The laws allow an on-site processor to come on and at least do the dispatching, eviscerating, and then take them to the butcher. In Oregon, do you have that ability as well?
Yes, we do. It's great. Yeah, we've used a mobile butcher every time. We don't have to take them anywhere.
Oh, so they
it's. Oh, what was that? Sorry.
I was saying, so in that situation, they're doing the whole process on farm then?
No, so they call them a mobile butcher. I don't know, that's just what we call them here. So they come here and they do the dispatch, and they, I don't know what they do with the pigs. I think they just basically everything extra is taken off, and then they hang them in the truck. Mm-hmm. And then they take them to where they actually finish processing. Yeah. So then where they package and make the sausage and make the hams and all of that.
Gotcha. So they're probably dispatching, probably skinning out. I doubt if they're scalding and scraping mobile, but maybe they are. And then having...
No, they don't do that.
Yeah. So they're having the pigs and then taking them to the butcher where they'll be finalized. Okay.
Yeah. And so it's great.
Yeah, so in that situation, I assume you don't even have to deal with any of the waste or the byproduct. They're taking that out and discarding that themselves.
Yeah.
All right, a good deal.
Yeah, we can butcher. So for pigs, we could butcher our own, obviously, but for selling them, we have to have a butcher do it.
Yeah.
But then the chickens, we can actually raise, and as long as we direct sell from our farm, we can butcher those ourselves and sell them up to, I think, $1,000 a year in Oregon.
Yeah, I know a lot of states have that same. We have the same in West Virginia. Yeah. We can do 1,000. We can actually do a 20,000 with another exemption, but usually everyone hits that 1,000 small farm.
20,000 is a lot of birds.
Yeah, I haven't done 20,000. I've done 900 in one year, but I've not done 20,000. So.
Oh man, our record is 200 so far, so we're sticking with that for the moment. But I think that might get a little bit bigger too. We'll see.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay. Well, great. So as far as your butcher goes, I assume you have access to multiple butchers. How did you go about shopping your butcher, or were we kind of limited on options?
Actually, we have several options, but they do book out really fast. I mean, you have to call 6 months before, so you better hope that your animal's ready because they're very busy. Our original butcher that we used for our steer, the first year that we were here, he actually sold his business. But I picked him honestly, I saw him on Facebook, and he was a younger guy. He was our age and had younger kids and homeschooled. I thought that was kind of fun. We did go and try. So he actually sold retail pasture-raised pork. He would sell like salami and pepperoni and things like that. So I went and bought some bacon and I think some salami from him to try it first, just to see what I thought of it. And so that's how we ended up hiring him. But then right when I was going to make my appointment for our hogs, he told me that he was selling his business.
Oh, wow.
I know, yeah. And so, but then he recommended somebody else, a meeting place in Hillsboro. And so, yes, I just researched them. And I always talk to them quite a bit when they come out before they do the dispatch and even on the phone. It's really important to us that we're there. I've been there for the steer and for the hogs. We just, we've spent a year raising them, long time, and we just want to make sure that everything's done ethically and done well. It's kind of like our way of showing respect to the animals.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's one of that seems to be the common thread, no matter who I'm talking to as a pork producer. Because of the way the laws are set up and the way we set up our facilities, it's you do all this work, you raise the hog, you nurture it, you feed it, you do all the things for 6 months to a year, and then you have to hand it off to quote unquote a total stranger to make sure they finish it well. And that's everyone has a butcher story, everyone has the horror story, everyone has the success story. So it's always good to have that relationship with your butcher. Is this butcher you're using are they USDA?
No, they're not USDA, so we can't sell just cuts. We do have a USDA here, but you can't do mobile butcher then.
Ah.
And since we don't necessarily want to just go sell a package of pork chops, it's simpler since we have people to buy whole hogs. It's simpler to just do that. And so at some point, we've gone back and forth. We've talked about maybe doing USDA, but then we would have to take them there.
Right. Yes, it brings in transport and logistic concerns at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a subject for an entire podcast. Maybe one of these days we'll get multiple people to discuss that because we've done both as well. And looking at the value added of selling retail, you obviously get more money for your poundage of pork. But there's the management, where if I've got 20 hogs and I'm going to sell as wholes and halves, then I need 20 to 40 customers. But if I'm going to take all those same hogs and bust them into individual cuts, then I need hundreds of customers necessarily to sell that. So it adds to the management, and by the time you absorb the processing fees, mark up the costs the way you need to, it sometimes makes it more convenient just to do the whole and half and walk away at the end of the processing day with a wad of cash in your pocket.
Yeah. And if we were interested in doing the farmers market, I know there's a farm here that does USDA because they want to go to the farmers market and sell cuts, and sell these things. But at this point with our family and the fact that my husband does work 40 hours, this isn't his job. It's the second job. So I'm not willing to give up my Saturdays as a family to be able to go sell that.
Yeah, that's always the downside of farmers markets. They really have to be successful to justify, especially with a lot of us small farmers or hobby farmers, as whatever term you want to use, where you do have a day job or something in the week that keeps you tied up. It's tough to burn up every Saturday to have the good representation at the farmers markets that you should.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, all right. Well, Grace, I want to ask you a question that, as we wrap up here, ask you a question that I ask everyone that comes on the podcast. So what is your best experience or your favorite part about raising pigs on pasture?
Oh, man. I mean, I think that my favorite part is the benefits that I see from it for our family and for the hogs. I mean, it's been an amazing difference, like having animals that are outside. You know, they're getting those omega-3s, they're getting that vitamin D, and just how it's so good for us. I mean, I don't even get sunburned anymore after eating pasture-raised animals these last few years.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I'm very pale. I mean, it used to be a thing. You know, I mean, I would always get sunburned, and literally the more like that we've switched to now only do pasture-raised. I mean, our freezer beef, pork, and chickens, all from our farm. And it's like, you know, I mean, it changes so much. And so seeing these real results of how we raise our animals, you know, in a natural state, it's amazing to me. And honestly, the longer we've had them, it's like the more we've learned about these benefits that we didn't even know jumping into it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's interesting because I grew up in the country. I grew up on raw milk and, having a big garden and everything. And we lived down the road from a pig farmer.
Wait a minute. You grew up on raw milk and you're not dead yet?
I know, right? It's amazing.
Shocker.
I'm still alive. I'm still here. Pretty sure.
Yeah, exactly.
But the pig farm down the road, I never even thought about it, but they were completely on concrete indoors. And I never even thought about that, but now, you know, having those memories of seeing those pigs compared to our, you know, American Guinea Hogs outside eating grass, even how we feel, you know, you go to a restaurant and eat bacon, and you just feel terrible after. You know, but here it's like we eat bacon, and it looks amazing, and we feel, you know, like green, and we feel energetic, and it's just an astronomical difference. You know, and so it's like the health of the pig and then our health as people is just a huge difference. And I think that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's interesting, the symbiotic connection between our food and our health. And it's a shame that we've digressed so much in culture that everyone doesn't see that obvious connection, and that we have to reiterate and restate that there is a direct connection to what we eat and how we feel and how our bodies respond to that.
Yeah, and I don't know, we're really disconnected as a culture. I think especially in America. I don't live anywhere else, so I don't know. Just we're so disconnected from our food, and that's one of the main reasons that we wanted to farm, is so that for ourselves and our kids that we wouldn't be disconnected from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. Well, Grace, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on the podcast with us and sharing your experience there in Oregon. It's my understanding, as we were talking before we started recording, you have a new Facebook page for the farm.
Yes.
So, and people can find you on Facebook at A Couple Acre Farm. Just use the search bar there in Facebook for A Couple Acre Farm in Oregon, and you'll see them pop up there, and you can see some pictures of their guinea hogs and their setup. And we really appreciate you taking the time to be interviewed today.
Oh, thanks for having me on. It was fun.
All right. Well, you take care now. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks, Troy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, all right. Well, that was a really good interview. I really appreciated Grace coming on and talking with us and being able to share her story and her situation there. If you want to know more information about Grace and her operation, I'll leave the information below in the show description, and you can check that out. Looking for another batch of interviews to go along, and also comment if you would, if you don't mind. Go to redtoolhouse.com. Use our contact form there, or you can use the Pastured Pig Podcast contact form actually under that link on our redtoolhouse.com website. Looking at topic specific, looking at additional people to interview, and then maybe even just discuss. I'd rather have a guest, but if I run out of guest opportunities, we may go topical with with some research and things that I've accumulated over the past year or so that I think may be of interest to you all. So feel free to comment and let us know what you think as far as future topics go. Well, if you want to know more information about us, again, you can check us out at redtoolhouse.com on our website, or you can find us Red Tool House Homestead on Facebook. And, of course, we have our YouTube channel as well, which is Red Tool House Homestead. All right. Take care, everybody.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. To learn more about our podcast or to submit topics or recommend guests for future episodes, visit redtoolhouse.com.